at that, you had everyone make a plan for implementation at the end and like do all these brainstorming sessions. And this is for the same reason, an in-person conference or an online conference, it doesn't matter. You're going to come away with lots of ideas and then it's too easy to go back to normal. So the huddles help you break down those ideas and kind of pick them through with other teachers who are in the same shoes. And it's through that teachers decide, okay, this is the one thing I might take from today that I can really take action on.
Hey everyone, it's Tim Topham here from topmusic.co, and we're back for another episode of the Topcast, your place for the tools and inspiration you need to run the most amazing music studio that we can possibly help you build. It's been great fun relaunching the podcast this year, a nice fresh start, and I hope you're enjoying it so far. Do let us know over on our social media channels or over on the show notes page at topmusic.co/episode 271. If you've got any comments, questions, thoughts, future interview guests, or topics that you'd like me to cover, I always love hearing from you guys. Well, today's episode is all about Nicola Cantan's upcoming Teacher Turboboost Retreat. We're going to be sharing exactly what's happening, how it works, most importantly, how it's different from every other online summit or retreat or conference you will have attended. I'm actually speaking at it. I'm really excited to be sharing my 20-minute presentation with Nicola's Turboboost attendees. And towards the end and during the talk with Nicola, you're also going to find out how you can get $10 off your ticket. But I'll give you the link right now to find out more about it. It's over at topmusic.co/turbo to find out more and access your discount. Before we dive in today, a couple of news updates from Top Music. First thing, do you sometimes find it hard to fit everything into your lessons? When you start getting a little bit more creative than you might have been taught, what we often find happens is we run out of time to try and do everything. And then we end up doing 3 minutes and 2 minutes on sight reading and oral and general knowledge, and then scales, and then technique, and then pieces. And then we have this kind of chopped up way of teaching, which isn't actually that productive. It actually can be really counterproductive to try and do too much. So if you'd like to give your students a fun way to choose some of what they do in a lesson and keep it to just 3 key things, then I want you to grab my 3 keys to a successful music lesson download. It's over at topmusic.co/3keys. And there's some information there with a video as well to give you one idea. It's just one way that you can look at structuring some of your lessons with your students. Check it out, topmusic.co/3keys. That's the number 3 followed by the word keys, Keys. Now, for those of you who aren't aware, one of my most recent course additions was a course called the Teen and Transfer Student Toolkit course. And this was a course that I wanted to put together. I'd been wanting to put together for some time, actually, after I put out my very first ebook some time ago. Some of you may have downloaded it. It was called the Teaching Teens Toolkit, and it was hugely popular. It just gave, I think it was 5 or 6 tactics over about the same number of pages about teaching teenagers. Because teaching teenagers, and particularly transfer teens, can be a bit of a work of art to get right sometimes. And it's it's very different. Let's face it, it's very different to adults, and it's very different to young child beginners as well. And so what I wanted to do was put everything that I'd learnt over working my entire career really with teenagers, and particularly with transfer students, which is a personal passion of mine, into one course. In this course, we look at everything from having a general approach the right way, motivating and goal-setting teenagers, which can be quite different to younger children or even adults. The best repertoire choices. Repertoire is just so crucial for attracting and retaining teenage students. And then we look at beginner lessons, both for beginner teenagers and then for transfer teenagers. And then we look at both first lessons for a transfer student and then ongoing teaching for both beginners and transfer students over those teenage years. And we finish looking up at teens and technology, and then a bonus module with some method book reviews, because there are some great methods out there now for teenagers, much more than there was even 10 years ago. So if you'd like to find out more about the Teenage and Transfer Student Toolkit course, the downloads, I haven't even talked about the downloads. There's some amazing, I've got these first lesson checklists and diagnostics, because one of the things I often used to forget to do is I get a transfer student in, And then 3 weeks down the track, I'd realized that I hadn't worked out that they couldn't play in time or they couldn't sing or something like that I really should have worked out in that first lesson. So I actually have created a diagnostic that you can just check off as you go through and work out exactly where your new transfer student's at. So if you'd like to find out more about that course and watch me give a quick overview video as well, then just head over to our main site and go to the Learn tab at the top, or you can just click or enter topmusic.co/courses. And the Teen and Transfer Teaching Toolkit course is there. Just click on Access Course and you'll be able to find out all about what it includes and how it can be really, really helpful for you. And a final reminder, if you haven't recently explored my YouTube channel, please head over there. We release weekly videos. They can be unboxing and reviews of instruments and digital instruments. We also have lots of teaching updates, ideas for your lessons. And now we're also live streaming my lessons, as you remember from last week's podcast, if you tuned in. My lessons with other teachers. It's called the Tim Gets Taught live stream series, and it's over on YouTube. So head over to youtube.com/topmusicco, all one word. And start exploring. I would love to see you over there. All right, let's get on with today's show. My guest today is a piano teacher, author, blogger, and creator of imaginative and engaging teaching resources. She loves getting piano students learning through laughter and exploring the diverse world of music making through improvisation, composition, and games. It is the one and only Nicola Cantan, whose membership site Vibrant Music Teaching is helping teachers all over the world to include more games and off-bench activities in their lessons. Welcome to the show, Nicola Cantan. Well, welcome to the show, Nicola Cantan. Great to have you back.
Oh, so good to be back. Always a pleasure.
Very, very cool to reconnect with you because you've moved on from being part of Top Music as of the end of last year. So it was great to have a very quick catch up before we hit record. But we're not here to talk about that today. Today, we are here talking about your event, which is coming up. And it's called the Teacher Turboboost. And so I thought it'd be great to get you on the show just to chat about it. Tell us more about how it works, what makes it special, all those kinds of things. And one of the main reasons is that you've invited me to be a part of it. So that's why I want to spread the word about it. So firstly, tell us, what is the Turbo Boost and how's this different to other, because there's lots of summits and conventions and things on at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started the Turbo Boost last year. I wasn't sure if it was going to be just a one-off pandemic event or if I would continue it, but the response was just amazing last year. So some of the things we do a bit differently to other conferences, which is why I decided to put it on. I actually call it a retreat sometimes rather than a conference, because it's really about all of us coming together as a group. Whereas other conferences have multiple streams and people are going in different directions, and you wouldn't necessarily know who else is attending unless you know them personally and you're connecting with them. We all come together in one room, i.e. one web page, but we just stay there the whole time. So we're all on the same page, quite literally.
Literally.
Yeah. And it's also live hosted by me, but with the guests recording their sessions. So that might seem like, oh, it's just a nuance, but it actually means that I can flow the whole thing through without you hopping to different places and without any guests coming on and saying, oh, how do I share my screen on this platform or any of that? It all flows super smoothly and I can build it with a very specific structure while keeping us all flowing. So the live experience, it feels truly live because I'm there hosting it and I'm right there with you the entire time through all these guest sessions and talking in the chat while they're on and then coming on between to discuss them. And then one of the other things we do differently is our breaks. So we don't just say, okay, here's 5 minutes until the next session. We actually put on specific breaks to make sure that you have time to do things that you need to do without missing things. So the actual sessions are 3 hours live, but we have a nature break where it's literally nature on the screen. So it's like beautiful views. So some of the attendees last year just sat there and enjoyed the views. Like they loved watching the sheep go by and all these different things. And some...
Do you need some imagery of Bronson walking in the garden? Would that help?
Oh my gosh, can we add Bronson in? That'd be so fun. I might add in Tofu this year, my dog. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so some are attending to the call of nature. That's why it's one of my hilarious puns. And Some are just watching the nature go by. And then the later break is a dance break because we need to pick up the energy again before we hop on a huddle. So the huddle is the Zoom portion. So the first 2 hours are just watching a presentation, participating in text. It's early-ish in the US, depending on what part you're in. It might be quite early. So you don't have to come on camera. You don't have to do anything for the first 2 hours where, you can just write. And then the last hour is in some ways the most powerful part because that's where you come together with other attendees on Zoom. And we go into what I call huddles, which are Zoom breakout rooms. So I put everybody into a room with just 4 or 5 people in it, and you discuss the day's sessions. Because one of the weaknesses of conferences, you might have found this too, Tim, is that you come away with like a bajillion ideas, right? And you don't do any of them, do you?
Yeah, you're buzzing. You're so excited about it all, and then it's just too easy to just go back to your normal everyday teaching, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one of the reasons why, like at Piano Pivot, which I managed to attend just under the wire before the pandemic started, at that, you had everyone make a plan for implementation at the end and like do all these brainstorming sessions. And this is for the same reason, an in-person conference or an online conference, it doesn't matter. You're going to come away with lots of ideas and then it's too easy to go back to normal. So the huddles help you break down those ideas and kind of pick them through with other teachers who are in the same shoes. And it's through that teachers decide, okay, this is the one thing I might take from today that I can really take action on.
That sounds great. We should say as well, the segments, even though they're so the day is broken, it's a 3-hour day with the 1-hour huddle and the 2-hour presentations, but you're not sitting there for a 2-hour presentation, are you?
No, not at all.
That would be nasty. So how are they broken up? Because they're quite short, right?
Yeah, right. So we actually start with warm-ups. So I get everyone to the best of my ability. Now you can sit there like a grumpy grump at home and just cross your arms. But the attendees are encouraged to get up and do the warm-ups with me. And those will be like movement warm-ups like I would do with students, because what benefits students benefits all of us. And actually some of the attendees, that's the main thing they took away. Even though there were all these fantastic presentations and others, that was their thing. But some just, because they experienced those warm-ups, they were able to use them right away with their students. So we actually start with movement and then we go into these short sessions, as you said. So my biggest pet peeve at a conference is a presentation that could have been done in less time. Maybe I'm impatient.
Said, yes.
It maybe has a little bit of fluff, and they get to the end. I'm sure many people have been to a presentation like this, and of course I'm not going to name any names. It's not even anyone specific I'm talking about, but you have a lot of fluff, and then they get to the end and they say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're out of time. And they rush through like 50 slides that were...
Oh, yes. We've all been there.
Yeah. So this prevents that. I mean, the sessions are pre-recorded, so the guests have all planned their talks. And I know you will have planned yours like a pro, Tim. You would never be the one skipping through 50 slides at the end.
I just love, and in fact, for your one, for the one I've recorded for you, it is exactly, I think the recording is exactly 20 minutes. So I was very proud.
That's amazing. Yeah. So it means that it might sound like a small amount of time, but actually in other realms outside of music teaching, long presentations like we do at conferences are really rare. Like I have a friend in science and her standard would be like 8 or 12 minutes.
Really?
That's it. And when she hears about me having to prepare 50 minutes of content, she's like, oh my God.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that was the case. It's been interesting watching the evolution of NCKP and MTNA conferences, that they are now doing 20-minute, 30-minute sessions as well as some of the longer ones, but there seem to be many more shorter ones. Definitely NCKP last year did that. And I think it's a great way to go. I mean, I was just talking to someone else today about my view of the TikTokification of everyone's attention spans. Particularly our kids, they're getting shorter and shorter, but it's for us too. And I got to tell you, Nicola, anytime I've given a 20-minute presentation, because I did a TED-style talk at one of those NCKPs, it really forces you. It's actually harder in some ways to present a cohesive 20-minute presentation than an hour-long presentation, because you've got to be precise and get it all down. So I think it's a great thing to pressure, or not pressure, but, ask that of your presenters.
Yeah, absolutely. It is much harder. And that's why the idea gets condensed down to, okay, what do you really mean? And that's what you want as an attendee, is to go and say, this is the boiled down thing. You don't want their meandering through, the different avenues of how they got to whatever it is they're talking about. You want not just straight to the point, you want the story, but you want the condensed version.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, tell us about the daily themes, because you've got about 4 or 5 days, is that right? And each day has a focus.
Yeah, so we have 5 days. So it's live for 3 hours for 5 days. We'll talk about replays in a second, but that's the way it works. So it might sound intense, but many conferences are 2 days and then they're like all day. So I decided to split it up so it's more like a day camp for kids, what they would attend, like a summer camp. So yes, we have different themes for each day. They're called root, stick, flip, branch, and rise, which are all very cryptic sounding, I know. But it's about this journey from rooting into what you're already doing now and what you're already doing great. Because I think teachers often miss that step of saying, what I'm doing, a large portion of it is working. It's like if you have a student and you get like laser focused on one weakness they have or one thing that you're failing to teach them, like rhythm. And you have to step back and say, what have they learned? What can they already do? What do they love about music? So you have to do the same thing for your own teaching, root into what's already working and what makes you fantastic as a teacher, because you're already fantastic because you're considering coming to a conference. So you're obviously dedicated to your profession, right?
Mm.
And then stick is about sticking. So in different ways, I'm a big proponent of trying to develop grit with students. You mentioned the TikTok generation. So, right, that's becoming more and more of an issue, is getting students to stick and for you to stick with the right things as well. And then we start to flip things. So that's where flip comes around. In the middle of the week, we say, okay, keep those things. You're doing those things great. But what can we turn on its head? So yeah, it's about rethinking things. I'm about questioning everything. And then branch is about new areas you might explore. And then rise is the day where we bring it all together. We actually don't have any guests on that day. It's just me and the attendees, so that we can really come up with a way to distill the week for each person so that they can move forward with it, so that they can make the best use of it. So there's still some new ideas, but they're all about organizing your own brain, essentially, so that you can move forward with those ideas.
Yeah, so important. I just love that you're taking on that idea of implementation, group discussion. What am I going to do? What's the one thing? Because you can't do everything. And then setting a plan for taking action. I think that's great. And that's what sets this apart. I think, of course, it's amazing presenters. It's the short form content. Also, just that implementation, and you as the guide. I mean, who better to guide people along this path, Nicola? I know people are in for an absolute treat. Who are some of the main speakers that are coming along?
Oh my gosh, so many fantastic people. I'm going to list them all.
I was amazed, I got to say. Wow, you've done a great job.
Yeah, so we have Grace Lee, who's the founder of NoteBrush, if you're not familiar with her, which is a fantastic app. So she's going to be talking about intervals and intervallic reading. And then we have Bradley Sowash, great friend to the top music world. People somehow don't know Bradley. He's one of the best people I know for breaking down jazz ideas so that non-jazz people actually can understand them, and not just saying, yeah, it goes like this. Yeah. You have to go, what? Can
just make it
music
up.
Theory? Yeah.
Yep.
So then we got Bradley. We've got Fred Karpoff, who Tim is currently taking lessons with.
Oh, yeah?
So,
yeah. Super cool guy. Really like Fred.
Yeah, so he's wonderful, especially in technique, but many areas. Just wonderful guy, wonderful presenter. Samantha Coates, who, no offense to any of the other presenters, but is probably the best presenter I know. She's just wonderful at her craft.
She's amazing. Yep. She still stands out in my mind. That NCKP, I don't know, 4 years ago when she did the note reading mnemonics. I think you were there, weren't you? It just blew 5 years ago. Oh my goodness. Literally one of the best presentations I've ever seen, hands down, in any genre industry. It was so good. Anyway, yes. So Sam's going to come along.
Yeah, that was an incredible presentation. We were actually sitting beside each other, Tim. That was after we first met for the first time in person.
Oh, wow. Okay, there you go. Should have remembered that. Now I feel bad.
Then we have Sharon Mark Teggart, who's from the Curious Piano Teachers. So some people will know her from there.
Mm-hmm.
And the wonderful Tim Topham.
Oh, thank you. It was really cool because, and I haven't spoken at a conference for a few years, which is quite unusual. So I really wanted to do something quite different. And I think people will find, hopefully they'll enjoy a new outlook. It's not me talking about pop or improv or creativity or technique. It's completely different, and I won't spoil it.
Yeah. No, but it's going to be so good. Okay. And then we have Rosemary Penner, who again, people familiar with top music might know Rosemary from the blog, from around different various places. That
Evolution, she's one of our Evolution team. Yep.
And then Jana Carlson, who's, well, she's got several projects. She's from Studio Rocket Web Design, so people might know her from that kind of work. And Stacey Farian, who people might know better from Whimsically Macabre, is kind of how she describes her composing. So she writes for the composers community, Piano Pronto, and she's been on our YouTube show as well. If people watch that, the way she thinks about things is so incredible. And she gave me several options for a talk, and I came back to her and said, "Oh, I love this one." And she said, "I love that you picked the most off the wall one." So,
okay. Can you remember what it is off the top of your head?
Yeah, it's called Get Inside Your Piano. So It's about how we can get students using sort of prepared piano things and experimenting with that. It's going to be fantastic. She's such an interesting composer and just creative mind. And then 2 people left in my long list of awesome people. So Dorla Price Aparicio, she talks about group piano a lot, so people might know her from that. She has the Piano Pyramid, which are her pieces she builds where multiple levels can play at the same time, which is a really cool thing. But she's going to be talking more generally about group piano in case that's something people want to get into. And then last but very, very much not least is Christopher Oyle, who...
Chris, cool.
Yeah,
he came on the podcast. We did some live composing a year or more, probably 2 years ago now. Yeah,
exactly.
He's great.
So he's fantastic, and he did a workshop for VMT last year about composing. He's so wonderful at making that accessible to students in a totally different way than I talk about composing, which I just love because there's so many different approaches. And his talk is about unsticking a stuck piece. In other words, when students kind of back themselves into a corner, as so often happens when they're composing, how can you get them out of the corner? So that's going to be great for many teachers who need help troubleshooting that.
What a lineup. It's going to be absolutely epic. I really hope people listening, you've got to go and check this out. This is a really unique opportunity to connect with Nicola and all these amazing guests. So we'll talk about how to connect in just a moment. Firstly, we haven't talked about dates. When's this actually happening? And you better talk about replays for those of you, those in my time zone who are going to be asleep, I think.
Yeah, you are definitely going to be asleep. So it is April 11th to 15th. So that is the week leading up to Easter. For those that means something, it's then because it's during my usual teaching time. So it's in my afternoon, 3 p.m. If you're in Dublin or in Europe, it'll be in the afternoon. And hopefully you have that week off as well, so you can come live. And then it's in the morning time, therefore, for the US. So really handy if you are still teaching, as I know many US teachers, Canada teachers will be at that time of year.
That's great.
It's not
so they
a break
can still
everywhere.
teach in the afternoon and do this in the morning.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And then in Australia, New Zealand, Asia, it is obviously just a crazy hour. You don't want to come live. But there will be, of course, replays available. The only thing there's not a replay for is the Zoom huddles.
Mm-hmm.
So because we don't record those, because obviously they're in separate bubbles, they're private conversations. I would never record people's private conversations with just a few other teachers. It's like, you finish the presentation and then gone to chat over coffee. So those can't be recorded, but everything else will be available as a replay, and it's available for 1 year. So you've a long time to watch it.
Great. Does that include the last day as well when you wrap things up?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Great.
So 2 hours of content every day is on a replay, and we put in stamps so you can jump to the presentations you want or just watch the whole thing as if it was live.
Oh, great. Well, you better tell us how much it costs as well, Nicola, and then we'll talk about where people can go to actually get access.
Yeah, so it is $69 for the whole week.
It's ridiculous. It is.
It is a bit mad.
So, guys, this is like $15 a day or something. Come on, you've got to go and do it.
Yeah. I mean, just think about that in comparison to what students pay you for lessons. It's crazy. So it's $69 for the entire week, but you can get an even better deal.
Ooh, tell us about the deal.
So if you're coming from Tim's site, if you're coming from this podcast, he has a special link which he'll share with you in a second, and that will get you $10 off. So it takes it down to $59, which is just, I mean, it's ridiculous. That's like $10
You're
a
crazy.
day.
You're crazy. You're actually crazy. Guys, you have to take this opportunity to jump on board and get a seat, get a ticket. If you can't be there live, it's totally cool. Watch the replays. You're going to get so much out of it. So the link to go to topmusic.co/turbo, topmusic.co/turbo, and that will get you your discounted price. Nicola, is there anything else that we forgot to mention today before we wrap things up?
I don't think so. I think we covered the full thing, but of course, if anyone has any questions, if you go to the page and you're like, oh, I wasn't sure about this thing, there's a little chat bubble in the corner. So just write to us, let us know any of your questions. But mostly I'm just looking forward to seeing everyone there.
Yeah, it's going to be so good. I'm sorry I can't be there live, but I'm going to enjoy hearing how people receive my presentation and all the other ones. So topmusic.co/turbo and get that ticket as soon as you can. It's going to be great fun. Thanks so much, Nicola. It's great to see you again.
Oh, thanks, Tim. This was fantastic.
Now, don't forget that link one more time, topmusic.co/turbo, to find out more about Nicola's amazing event and to get your discount ticket. I really hope to see lots of you guys there and hear about it, because I'm going to be asleep at the time of the presentations, but I can't wait to hear the feedback that I know will be so positive coming out of it. Now, next week, we've got a free webinar coming up. It's with the amazing Tracy Selly. Tracy is back from Upbeat Piano Teachers, and we've got a huge announcement to make, and I can't wait to reconnect with her. She's just so much fun to hang out with, and I know you're going to absolutely love hanging out with Tracy. If you haven't done that before, you're in for an absolute treat. Now, for more information about the webinar, though, make sure you head over to topmusic.co/webinar for all the details. It's completely free, be about an hour long, and you're going to get lots of value from it. So that's the end of the show for this week. Thanks again for joining us. I do hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us again today. And next week on the podcast, we are speaking to Owen Grover. He's the CEO of TrueFire Studios, which is fast becoming one of the biggest online music learning organizations, with brands under it like ArtistWorks, Fader Pro and Jamplay, all part of its offerings. In the episode, we talk lots about the impact of technology on teachers and how we can all stay ahead of the curve when it comes to technology and online content. Until then, I'm Tim Topham, and you've been listening to the Topcast. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye, everyone. For more information about this episode and to find out how to enhance your own teaching, visit topmusic.co. You'll find everything you need for your studio, from lesson plans to cheat sheets, quick win teaching ideas, and guides on how to build your teaching business. Plus, you'll be connected to a global community of the world's top music teachers. And when you're ready, join hundreds of other teachers around the world by becoming a Top Music Pro member and get access to all our bonus content and flagship courses. And don't forget to follow topmusic.co on social media and subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to it. That's all for today. We'll see you in the studio.